Welcome to the Inner Game podcast. This is a podcast where we talk or where we have conversations actually with founders and CEOs about their insights, their breakthroughs, the turning points which have made them successful. And today I have a conversation with a great lady, Samantha Roseman. She is the founder actually of Corporate Calm. And yes, Samantha, I want to thank you first of all for your time, for making time and for being here.
Great to be here. Thank you.
And my first question is always like to everybody is, how are you?
Yeah, I'm in a good place. I'm feeling very good. I feel relaxed, and I feel passionate and ready to share and learn from everybody. Yep.
Ready to share. That's very important. Thank you, Samantha. So corporate calm, I will just add a little bit. You are now in the wellness, well-being space for the moment. At this time, I mean. And I have prepared like three questions. I know you have been in the corporate world and now you're in the well-being industry. Um, when we talk about leadership,
Mm.
what was leadership for you before, which is not true anymore for you today?
That's a great question. I mean, leadership is many, many things, but I think for me personally, I think it's always been about having a sense of control, a sense of um, being seen to be accountable, and essentially taking responsibility for all the people that you're leading. But I have found this to be quite a conundrum, should we say?
Mhm.
um, it has two sides, and of course, it does involve all of those things. But for me personally, I've always been very much someone who has held myself to very high standards and held myself to account. But in a way that has been, I think, possibly too far on the pendulum. And I think it's created in me a sense of feeling like I cannot let anyone down. I can't let anyone down. I can't let myself down. And it's up to me to take ownership and leadership and responsibility for everything and everyone.
Mhm.
So,
That's an interesting one. So the shift from taking the responsibility for others to
mhm.
um, taking responsibility to yourself, for yourself.
Yes, yes, definitely, definitely. And Bart, I kind of liken it to the Greek mythological statue of Atlas. The guy who's holding the entire world on his shoulders,
Yeah.
or the heavens on his shoulders.
Mhm.
And it's a very, very heavy load to carry, and it's a huge responsibility when you're in a position of leadership. But I think when you don't have the balance right with it, it can weigh very heavily on yourself. And in my particular case, I think having that trait most of my life has actually been part and parcel of what's made me reconsider and reflect and led me to experiencing terrible burnout.
Mhm. Mhm. It's a beautiful image that you put in front of me from Atlas, and the need to yeah, or thinking that we cannot let anyone down. So it's a great start. Yeah. So my second question let's go deeper on this, on your view on leadership. What has been
Mhm.
in your life like a kind of really turning point, like a specific turning point in your leadership?
I think for me, as you said, I've been in the corporate world for so many, many years. And I think the turning point was basically when I have what I call like a perfect storm of all sorts of events going on in my personal life and work life. Around 2019 to about 2021, there were some big shifts in my life. I was working in a very highly stressful role in employee relations, HR, dealing day in and day out with employees' issues, employers and employees' issues, and conflict mediation, restructuring, and all sorts of things in that line. And that in itself is incredibly wearing. And you feel, well, I certainly felt an enormous responsibility for making sure that I got it right, so that I got it right for the organization, but equally so that I did the best by the employee as well. So that was one big factor. And at the time, we were undertaking a big restructure in the company, and there were around 550 of us that we had to put at risk, and our jobs were also at risk at the same time. So that was very, very stressful. In addition to that, over the 6 months prior to this, I noticed in myself some changes. I started having terrible brain fog, and my memory wasn't as good as it normally was, and that was quite scary for me. And then I actually started to develop very, very extreme anxiety and panic attacks, which I've never ever had before. So something was really wrong. And I discovered that I was entering into the menopause, into the perimenopause. So that was another factor. And of course, then COVID hit too, and that brought a whole lot of challenges in itself. My son had to be homeschooled. So trying to juggle everything and dealing with all these stresses, and of course, also all of us living on top of each other in a household, creates a lot of stress and tension too. So, with all of those factors, it basically led to me feeling so overwhelmed that I actually had to go and see my GP, my doctor, and he prescribed that I stay off work for a while. And basically, when that happened, it was like a complete opening of the floodgates for me, because up until then I'd been trying to keep things going, albeit with, kind of trying to patch things up along the way. But once I actually let go, I then sort of really struggled with immense burnout. I had no energy. I couldn't get out of bed for ages. I found it difficult to get up and wash and clean and myself and the home. And there were just a whole catalyst of things that I was experiencing, which then turned into depression. And I have to be honest, there were days when I really questioned whether I still wanted to be around. It felt like that world that was on Atlas's shoulders came crashing down on me. And it was a very dark place for me to be. So for me, that was definitely a pivotal moment in my life and in my work and leadership. And it really forced me then to reconsider everything. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I love your expression of the perfect storm. Yeah, it's a beautiful expression, this, because I hear you saying that you were really going like to the bottom,
Yeah.
that was like kind of needed in your life, no?
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually a very interesting way of framing it, because yes, I feel like it was almost a crash for me. But actually, on reflection, although not at the time it was absolutely awful. On reflection, that was a huge wake up call for me, and being forced to actually take stock of my life, my job, everything. Yeah.
When I look at your work, uh, what you do, because we met on LinkedIn, and I
Yeah.
was inspired by your work actually.
Thank you.
Um, and I see that what you do, you are successful in this. And so then I reached out to you because, as
Mm-hmm.
I said, I was inspired by what you share, how you share it, how you comment. And I also saw your your success, let's say. But what is it that you are doing on a daily basis, Samantha, to because you went from corporate to nothing anymore, no
Mm-hmm.
energy,
Mm-hmm.
and now you are there. You are doing your thing, and it's successful, and it works, and it inspires people because I see it. Many people react and respond, and you have that flow. So, what is it that you are doing on a daily basis to stay there?
Wow. Well, it to get out of that dark place and that hole, if you want to call it that, I went into a huge, I describe it as a cocoon state. I kind of shut myself off from the world and everything, because I needed time to focus on me and to regroup, reconsider, and rethink. And basically, that was through things like LinkedIn. If I'm honest with you, it was like a channel for me to actually share thoughts, share feelings, learn from others, be inspired, possibly inspire other people. And I've actually found an incredibly supportive community through LinkedIn. And that's certainly been a massive help to get me out of the slump. I've also been doing I had done quite a bit of reading. I wanted to really understand what I was experiencing and why I was experiencing it. And one of the books that stands out for me is by the wonderful psychiatrist Gabor Mate, and his book, which is When the Body Says No. And while, of course, he applies that to trauma that's often suffered in childhood, and the coping mechanisms become less and less as you get older and more difficult. And very often it actually results in some form of disease, such as cancer, MS, motor neuron, all sorts of things. That really made me think about where I was at, and how I could relate to that. And the fact that I'd been carrying this load for so long, and while my body was screaming at me, and telling, providing signals, I refused to listen to those signals. And I just wanted to keep going and keep going and keep going. And I think having that massive burnout and that crash, reading and becoming more aware of all these things helped me to get out of it. How do I sort of sustain where I'm at now? For me personally, I found so much comfort in nature.
Mm.
For me, nature just has such a medicinal and powerful way of helping to reconnect with yourself, with your world, with everything. I've never been an incredibly sporty person, so I I don't do, lots and lots of sport. But during this period, I also acquired a beautiful English bulldog called Boris.
Boris.
Boris, yes. um, and he has just been almost a light in my life. And he has been a reason for me to get up, but not just to get up, but also to go out into nature.
Mm-hmm.
I think Boris and I are both very mindful because we've enjoyed some very lovely walks in forests, in woods, rivers. And it's incredible how just having half an hour of that in my day just sets me up almost, and gives me that strength to then be able to be there for other people as well as for myself. So, I think, if I'm honest with you, Bart, I don't think it's about being radical and trying to, go out and do yoga, meditation, mindfulness, and, massage, all sorts of things all in one go. I think it's about just electing something small, like going out for a walk, like being in nature, where you take yourself away from everything. And that's really, it really helps. It certainly really helped me. And I think it has very healing qualities. So that would be something I would highly recommend to anybody who's feeling that. And then another concept that I like to use as well is I think it's important to have protected time. And that is time that you apportion in before each week, so that you actually blank out that time to do something like go for a walk, do the meditation, because I feel that if the life is so fast and so fast paced, that if you are thinking, oh, I'll do that as I'm going along, it doesn't happen. I mean, let's be honest. We might start going, for example, to the gym, but within a couple of months, life takes over. So I think it's about having that protected time and integrating this time for yourself and self-care into your daily routine, I think. Yeah.
Samantha, I have like great takeaways here. And I really want to thank you. And usually I'm not the person who is going to conclude and but it inspires me very much. I want to thank you for this. And it
Thank
feels
you.
like you're being open, your yeah, your profession and being in the well-being industry as well. It's integrated. And I would like I wanted to share this because for the people watching this podcast and other podcasts, yes, get inspired by this, I would say, by your sharings, and also keep on challenging yourself. Go find those pivotal moments, the breakthroughs, the what brings success, what not. And yes, it's very inspiring what you're sharing here. Thank you so much for this. Thanks for your presence and for your time, Samantha. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me on your podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.